Welcome to Ask the Accountant, the podcast that is made for you. Weekly podcast live Mondays from 8:30 a.m., released on the podcast service of your choice on Wednesdays. Your main weekly hosts, Aaron, Patrick, and Johann. Got something to ask? Submit your questions below or ask during the show. Podcast loading. We are currently getting everything set up behind the scenes, so sit back, relax, and we will be with you in a few seconds. Enjoy.
Good morning, everybody, and a very warm welcome to Ask the Accountant, episode number 36 on the 26th of June, 2023. And my name is Aaron Patrick, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Johann. Johann, how has your weekend/week in Whitby been?
Good morning, everyone. Yeah, it's been fantastic. I'm not going to lie, we've had sunshine all week, apart from a rainy Tuesday. But yeah, very chilled, very relaxed, and glad to be back and catching up on all the news. So I think this is going to be an insightful one for me as much as it is all of our listeners, since I've been a bit incognito for the last week.
But recharging the batteries, which is good to see. Apologies, first of all, for some technical difficulties we had last week. Apparently, we couldn't see, most of your comments coming through. But good to see that some of them are coming through now. So Paul's here. Hello, Paul. How's it going? Kirsty's there as well. Good morning to you too. And ABL Reselling's there. So good morning, chaps, and good morning to you too. And there's more coming through as we go along. I've also just realised we forgot to go live on all our LinkedIn channels. So yeah, apologies if you had to find this another way. Technology on a Monday morning, what happens? But apart from that, it looks like everything else is working, and we're going to keep an eye on that because it was a bit disappointing last week, to say the least, to say that we weren't able to see all your wonderful comments coming through. All right, then what have we got today? Well, today we are going to talk about a little thing called the Accounting Council. Well, bits we are allowed to talk about, more on that in a moment. We're going to talk about conference season 2024. But wait, Aaron, 2023 is not even finished yet. Or has it? We'll talk about that in a moment. We're looking at the card readers in 2023 and how that is. And hopefully our extra topics at the end is bright proposed launches and Teamwork shutting down. So let's start off at the very beginning then about Accounting Council. What is it? What's going on? What's all this new terminology going? Well, QuickBooks released, or Intuit QuickBooks, as they now want to be known as, notice the logo's got a little bit bigger. Intuit QuickBooks has released the Accounting Council, or launched the Accounting Council. And the idea of the Accounting Council is to get accountants and bookkeepers together and talk about what's going on in the world of Intuit QuickBooks and basically get our opinions on it before it kind of goes public and try and steer it in the right direction as best we possibly can. Now, complete transparency here, both myself and Johann have seats at the Accounting Council. Johann was in Whitby at the time, and we are under strict NDAs, so there's only so many things we can talk about. But before I go in kind of explaining the day and everything else, what was your outside looking in on the small amount of social media content that we were allowed to post? What was your kind of thoughts on it compared to what you had previously, which was the strategic partnership, wasn't it?
Yeah. So I think it looked like you guys had a fantastic day. You were well looked after. And you were well equipped with swag. And I'm looking forward to my box of swag turning up in the post. But yeah, the Accounting Council is bigger than the strategic partnership. So there was only 6 of us in the UK on the strategic partner roundtable, as it were. My understanding there's potentially between 12 and 15 people on the council. And it's a variety of firms. So the strategic partner thing was kind of a bit, there was a barrier to entry, and they only really took on either the bigger firms or those of us that were very proactive in our social media and support of the product, like myself. Whereas the Accounting Council, they're trying to get a more rounded approach where there is people representing startup and small firms right up to your top 25 type size firms. So yeah, I think they're going to get a much better sounding board out of that. And I think the people they've invited are a lot more passionate and invested in it. Some of the strategic partners perhaps were more there as a status symbol than they were there to add value and give back and feedback. So yeah, no, I think this is the right direction for QuickBooks. I know Xero have had like round tables and they call it their council and stuff. But from what I've seen on social medias, it's less structured and it's more ad hoc. Whereas QuickBooks are they're quite determined this is going to be a quarterly meeting in London where we're going to go through the roadmap very openly, and there'll be nothing hidden from us, basically. But that is exactly why we're under such strict NDAs, so that we can give feedback earlier in the process. Because I think that's something QuickBooks have learned over the last couple of years, is actually we're bringing in accountants to feedback on the functionality and the priorities of the roadmap too late. So like Books to Tax, or Pro Tax as it's now called, that could have been released a year ago if they brought us in to help them scope the project better at the beginning. And because they didn't, they took a complete tangent and wrong turn, and they had to go back to the drawing board and start again. So yeah, no, I think it's a great idea. I think it's a really good group of people that they put in there. From what I've seen on the social media, the people that I know have opinions and feedback, but they have it in a constructive manner. Whereas, some people will sit on those tables and just be negative. Whereas you've got to be there and do it on a constructive manner, because otherwise it's pointless to everyone. Because QuickBooks loses faith in you, and you get frustrated because it doesn't seem like QuickBooks is taking anything on. So yeah, it's really important that we get that balance right. So yeah, no, I'm really excited to be part of it. I'm looking forward to my box of swag because it looked fantastic. They looked like they've put some real effort into that, and some really unique pieces. So yeah, that's for a swag collector like myself, that's always a bonus.
And it'll go well with your shoes as well, which is still very elusive, isn't what we like to see. Yeah, the event itself was, again, we're not allowed to talk about what was announced or anything else, but we can talk about the event, and it was really well, like you've already said, like well put together. I mean, it started quite an early day for me. I got myself into London nice and early because we had a webinar/podcast in the morning, which was quite cool because we were doing a podcast about QuickBooks Desktop at QuickBooks. So nice. I did feel at one point, though, if I say the wrong word, then there's going to be someone going through the door saying that's not correct. No. So yeah, it was
blow dart through the wall. little hatch opened. Done.
You said to migrate to where? That was not QuickBooks. You just said. So yeah, it was quite interesting to get that done first, and then we just had people arriving at the event. They for anyone who's been to QuickBooks HQ itself, we were in that big main room where we have like I forget what they call it, but they've got a name for the room, but it's where they've got like a stage and everything else. And then prior to that, we were in the kind of the boardy room type meeting room area where we had a bit of lunch and a chance to talk to one another. But yeah, it was a really well orchestrated event. I think the best thing about it was the fact that we got to have that opportunity to network with one another as well. So there's certain people there we've never met before, so it was good to kind of opportunity. They'd already thought about it, whereas on the link just here, look, we've got a little QR code on the lanyard you're wearing to get your LinkedIn profile, them sort of little bits. It works really well just to kind of bring that all together. And then basically we sat down, looked at the roadmap for 2024 and beyond, which was brilliant to see. Went out in some breakout rooms where we were able to kind of talk in more kind of one-to-one almost of the new features they were just talking about and what they expect to see bring in. and then back to everyone together again for some kind of final announcements and one more thing moments, if you like. And it was, really, really, really good. I think what was nice for someone like myself, though, who's already kind of on every beta going and involved in this conversation, that conversation, I was surprised about some of the announcements. Some of them came out of a left field for me, and I was like, oh, okay, great. That's a fantastic way to take the product, and a fantastic opportunity for other elements of the product to maybe shine a bit more and everything else. And I feel like that was really nice to see and a real good opportunity. I must admit, though, like, one thing we probably are allowed to say is that think about why
get the lawyers ready.
Exactly. Think about why they're making the word Intuit that little bit bigger. You can imagine there's a lot more of the rest of the Intuit family being involved going forward, which I'm really excited to see. And I think when we look at the industry and we look at what we've had a bit of doom and gloom at the moment, like when we talk about Xero and the fact that they're looking to have, unfortunately, more job cuts. It looks like, from what we can tell, that most of that's in the development team, which kind of shows you what their roadmap must be looking like going forward, which isn't great. But Sage has gone very quiet again, right? Like they seem to have, their big push is acquisitions, obviously, which is great, and it's great for people like us, and we can have a nice little chat about acquisitions and how that works, and creates a buzz.
Sage, it was only a few weeks ago we were discussing their new free bookkeeping solutions.
True.
But I think the problem is they announced it and we've had so little hype about it. It's fallen away from our memories, as it were.
Yeah, and they must have the equivalent of accounting council. I assume Sam might be involved if she ever wants to tell us what's what it's like. But I assume they have their equivalent, and they will have a great roadmap out there as well. It just feels like, and maybe this is just this could be the fact that we are so heavily invested in QuickBooks and we are so blinkered into what's going on there. I just feel like Sage doesn't have that level of, we've got all this coming and this enhancement and everything else possibly coming, but we've not seen that. But I think the positivity,
they may well have, but they don't have the evangelists to promote it and say, watch out, there's something coming. Like QuickBooks have got that in ourselves. We're sat here on our podcast today talking about QuickBooks is accounting council and stuff.
True.
Do other softwares have those fanboys, for want of a better term?
Yeah, I mean they do have people who, like Xero, definitely have, don't they? They have very, very much. Well, they still do, but I suppose they just don't have as much to talk about now, right? Like,
well, this is true.
If the product,
you can't get too excited about a new font on a report, can you?
Exactly right. Or Xero Go as came out. But I feel like the excitement level of knowing that there is some really big moves coming. The fact that we have an opportunity to, as accountants, see about how we can actually improve our services to clients, which is ultimately what it's all about, right?
Yep.
And I think that's what this is tailored towards. There is a lot of moves here. We saw that at QuickBooks Connect, and we saw that at recent announcements that have been made and recent developments like Books to Tax, as you were saying, how that shift back to accountants is not just being said on paper. It's not just a buzzword that we want to involve accountants more again than anything else. We can see that in just looking at the development of the roadmap. And, I would say 70% of what's on the roadmap is really tailored towards the accountants getting a better experience. Yes, some of it will help the clients as well, but it is very much tailored to, okay, this is something that you could also utilize, or this is something you could actually provide to your clients and help them as an additional service and things like that. That's what I was seeing, and I think that's great to see. And I do feel like, maybe it is a PR spin, and maybe that, maybe we're being completely bamboozled by it. But I do feel like that whole idea that accountants first idea is still their whole push going forward. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting, and we're really excited to be able to talk about some of these announcements and in more detail when we can. because I do feel like some of them are going to be really big for the industry. And as we always said, like we need that, right? We need something like QuickBooks putting innovations in and pushing forward so that the rest of the industry can follow suit. And then hopefully the rest of the industry can also put bits in place that then QuickBooks can react to and bring forward. So
yeah, I mean, I've sat there at these types of events for both QuickBooks and other software providers in the past and just gone, oh my God, that roadmap's going in completely the wrong direction.
Yeah.
But from everything I've seen from last week's meeting that I wasn't there for, I'm sat there going, yeah, they've got it right. They're going in the right direction here. I'm happy with this. So, which I think in itself says a lot, that you and I are sat there going, yeah, this is good. This is exciting. Whereas we have sat there in the past and gone, really? That's a priority? Who's told you that's a priority? But they've definitely taken on board a lot of feedback from accountants and bookkeepers over the last 6 months, and really driven that roadmap based on it.
Yeah, and I do feel like, and just for clarification, if the legal team is listening, he saw none of that roadmap from me.
I'm on the council, it's fine. Who you shouldn't have shown it to was
just here's a list of ones that are going through.
That Facebook Live you did on the day was probably not your best move.
It was well attended though, so I got the engagement. But yeah, I feel like I think the fact that it's quarterly, I'm not 100% sure about quarterly yet. We'll see how it beds in. I think you've got to give these sort of events the opportunity, right? You've got to give it the chance to can we have that same sort of razzmatazz and that same sort of wow factor quarterly, or is it something that maybe biannually is probably a better fit? We'll wait to see. These people, they've been there, done that, got the t-shirt, and you've literally got a delay to prove it, right? That how to run these events and what works and what doesn't. So I'm reserving judgment on what's going to work and what's not, and I think it's just an amazing opportunity for us to kind of understand what's going on and figure that out. And like you said, give them an opportunity to steer them in the right direction in certain things, because already even from that one event, feedback's already been taken on certain things, and certain things are going to be looked at in a different light. And I think that's what it's about, right? It's getting that litmus test going forward. Paul says he did a round table type thing with every owner back in 2018 QB Connect. Oh, nice one. Hopefully that was a good event. And I know those QB event ones used to be really well attended as well, didn't they? And round table go through there. And then Sage ran out of things to buy. I mean, there's a nice little practice management solution going that's the right price.
There is no right price.
Yeah, let me ask the rest of the stakeholders what the price is. I'm sure they'll figure one out. Okay, so Accounting Council has launched and is now out there, and more to come from us on that one. Right then, let's talk about conference season 2024. And right to say that, why are we talking about 2024 when 2023 is just in its infancy, isn't it? We're just starting out. We've got some major events still to come. There's, we've only just had Accountex, 2 months ago, was it? And only just had Digital Accounting Show a month, or no, not even a month, was it? 2 weeks ago. That's how crazy it is. And obviously we had QuickBooks Connect at the start of the season. So there must be more still to come in 2024. Well, 2023. Well, there's kind of one event to go in 2023.
That's it.
We've got Accountants North coming up, so that's great. And it looks like, we now know is confirmed, that what we were expecting in November was being moved to March. So that's Accounting Web, which was the event that previous year was in Coventry, but in the West Midlands, or just Midlands, it's probably easier to say, and was in the Coventry Stadium, wasn't it? I remember from memory. We were all expecting that to be again in November, with the excitement that it was also at the NEC, which is a much bigger event spend, so it was kind of their next step and going up and increasing. And we were always like, the date was always kind of a dubious one, wasn't it? I think they just picked the wrong day of the month as opposed to the right month, wasn't it?
Yeah. Putting things on a VAT deadline date was never a smart move.
Yeah, exactly. But that has now moved. So we won't be having a accounting web in November, which is a shame, I think, because I think that was quite a nice end to the accounting season, or the conference season, should I say. And it just means that next year's 2024's roadmap of conferences is going to be insane. I don't think there's any other word. There's literally a conference a month. No, there's a conference a month. Just going through
a 1 day conference.
No.
So yeah, like the beauty of this year was we had a 1 day QuickBooks conference.
Yep. Which we make it into more of a 1 day, right? Like that's the other thing. Yeah.
What did we then have after QuickBooks? That was it, wasn't it? Until
Accountex, yeah.
Yeah. Then we had the 2 day event of Accountex.
Which again.
Then we had a 1 day event.
2 days.
Yeah. Then we had the 1 day event of Digital Accountancy Show. Then you have a summer break, which, I'm thinking F1 terms here, like summer break, where everyone's out on the summer holidays and stuff, makes complete sense. Then you warm back up in September with Accountex Manchester. And then
Is it September, is it this year? I thought, yeah, okay.
Yeah. And then you end the year with a 2 day conference in the form of the Accounting Web Expo. That worked nicely. The spread of that meant it wasn't too disruptive to your day-to-day working calendar. But next year is a very different matter, isn't it?
Yeah, so next year, 2024, looks like this. Accounting Web in the NEC, so still in Birmingham, which is good to see. The 13th to 14th of March, so a 2 day event. Then the Digital Accounting Show is going to be the 16th and 17th of April. Again, a 2 day event. Notice that is a month after. Accountex will then be the 11th and 12th of May, a 2 day event in May, a month after. Less than a month at that point. And then XeroCon, I think, has been announced for the 12th and 13th of June. We've yet to see QuickBooks Connect, which we assume, if it is going ahead this year, would be in March.
End of February, start of March.
Yeah. I mean, that could be February, March, April, May, June, if you want to attend every single one of them. That could be a big ask for accountants to put their time to. And it's one of those, isn't it, right? Like, we almost not have to, but we choose to go to them for our, for getting the content there that we want to get the content for our audience. And we also get asked to talk at a lot of these events, which, makes it even more worthwhile us going and everything else. So, but if we take that out of it and we were just going from a purely, right, let's book my conference season for 2024, you're going to pick one of those, right? Or two at a push.
If you look at it, because they're all down, no matter how you look at this, one's in Birmingham, one's in Manchester, everything else is in London.
Yeah.
So anyone from the north, shall we say, or wherever you class that as, you're looking at probably a day either side of the conference for travel. So what I'm looking at here is, assuming QuickBooks Connect is at the end of February, start of March, that's a 3 day trip. Then we've got Accounting Web Expo. That's a 4 day trip. Then we've got Accounting Expo. Then we've got Accountex. That's another 4 day trip. Then we've got Digital Accountancy Show, which are now 2 day events. That's another 4 day trip. In basically 3 months. Yeah. That's a lot of time to take out of the office. And even I'm sat there thinking, we're going to have to write some of these off. Like the fanboys of conferences, we are at every conference. We love them. We want to go and do our podcasting from them. We want to go and speak at them. And I'm sat there questioning the timing. And yeah, I think this is a terrible mistake they've made.
Yeah, it's a huge shame, isn't it? Because I felt like if we we were talking about it at Digital Accounting Show, right? Like, if you think about where that was born or the concept of it, it got completely massacred by the pandemic. And if you think back to those times, we were questioning if we were ever going to get these sort of conferences again. Like, was there an appetite for it? Is online the way forward going forward? Is it, will people be willing to go down to London and go down to anything else? And I felt like, credit where credit due, every one of these shows, especially I think Accountex really showed it, like, and Digital Accounting Show, like, that there is a way to bring back that the need for the in-person event, like, and it became clear that you can't replicate it virtually. That isn't what you're not going to be able to come in and bring that through. But I do feel like all of that goodness of all of that, let's get the appetite back, let's get people excited for it, then that's going to be difficult now, right? And it's not just us accountants. What about the vendors as well? Like, if they really want to put their best foot forward, for each vendor there, that is a huge commitment for them to ask them to put each of those time slots in, one each and every month, and one a month basically. Because we say, it becomes an almost 4-day event. It's a 5-6 day event for some of them, right? Setting up, getting everything right. Oh, you're on mute, yeah.
As that vendor, if you're looking at lineup, do you think actually, I'm going to turn up to every single one? Am I going to send my staff team? Like, if you look at the Xeros, the QuickBooks, and Sages of the world, to commit your staff team and the amount of money they spend on these things into such a short period of time, where you think actually our users aren't going to turn up to all 3. Do we choose 1, maybe 2, and just really push there? And if you do that, well, if you look at the history of it, Accountex wins every time in that opinion, in that role, because based on past years, 10,000 people are going to turn up over 2 days. Like, which event do I spend the most money on? Yeah. If you're Sage, for example, you don't have your own conference or anything, you go, well, I'm going to put the money into Accountex and I will have a small stand at the other 2 just to tick the box. And I think Accounting Web and Digital Accountancy Show they've seen this juicy pie that is Accountex, and they've gone on the assumption, oh, right, so 2-day event definitely works. That's the way forward. And it's in the start of the year, that's the way forward, because that's why Accountex is doing so well. I don't think that is why Accountex is doing so well. I think it's potentially a better brand. It's a worldwide brand. It's well run. I just don't think anyone is looking at these 3 events and going, I'll be at all 3.
You can't. No, and even the speakers, like, there's no opportunity there for the speakers to go, you know what, I'm going to put on the March event, I'm going to run with what I always run with, like topic A. But on the April event, I'm going to, try something a bit new and go, which is what we get now, right? Like, because there's that time in between to have that breadth of everything else, then they'll try some things out. And the speakers themselves, they're going to have to decide which ones are going to go to and which ones are not. Like, I'm talking the big hitters here, the ones that the headline acts, if you like, they can't. Surely they can't. I mean, they already have their calendars already booked out probably for what they're going to be talking at what event. And Kirsty makes a good point as well. Like, the ICB conference, there's other conferences out there, right? So here's 6th of November, 400 people go in there, and it's a great event. But then you've got the ICAW. I know they've actually cancelled their small practice one, but they normally have an event. All of your professional bodies are going to have an event, and they're going to be sat in there as well. QuickBooks are going to have their road shows now, and they're going to be regional ones that we've got to kind of think about going to as well. A very good point here by Raynar Mania. It says Cantex North late in the year will be a big winner with the rest being bunched earlier in the year. And hopefully that's the case, because I feel like Accountex North last year was a little bit tepid in some aspects, wasn't it? So hopefully this like having this pressure off kind of the rest of the year means that they can really push it, can't they? And they can grow that brand.
Yeah. But the problem there is that is quite a small venue. They only have 4 speaking stages.
Yeah.
Like I'm not sure they can handle being the winners of this whole situation. Like they may have to relook at locations for next year if they are.
And there must be some pretty good locations out there. I know.
Yeah.
Manchester's a big place. So, there must be some good locations. I mean, Ed Sheeran was able to get quite a nice one in. It's called the Etihad Stadium. So we could take over that one. But no, there are locations, and you're right, maybe that's what they've got to do next, right? And then go from there. Andy says it's a lottery for the small vendors to decide which way the public will go. And that's, I mean, especially really you guys, I don't want to be making those decisions. I feel like that's absolutely mental for you. Like, which ones would you choose now when they're so free together, knowing now that, if they were more spread out, you're going to have a better opportunity for more people to be there and go forward. Already thinking give all 3 a miss due to uncertainty, supposed as to be more favourable for small available. And we think so, but like, if Accountex is only less than a month away, does that hurt the numbers? It's got to have some effect on it. And I feel like having all 3 so close together, this isn't let's all grow together. Let's all one of those is unfortunately going to suffer over the other. And if you go by form factor and previous and everything else, it kind of stands out which one's probably going to suffer the most. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think the 2025 conference scene could look very different to what 2024 is looking like. Now, whether that's different because someone's had to pull out of the market space because there's just no space for them, or they redistribute the conferences, I don't know. But there seems to be a lot of you copied us, we copied you type tittle-tattling going on. And it just seems like a bit of a unpleasant space as an industry at the moment in accounting conferences of one-upmanship and, copycatting and all that kind of stuff. And I just think, well, actually there's enough accountants out there and bookkeepers and payroll people and software people that the industry can sustain 3 or 4 very good 2-day events spread across the year if the timings are right and the locations are right.
Yeah.
Like, if they can get those bits right, then they're onto a winner. I think Accounting Web Expo has done a major step in the right direction moving to Birmingham, because there is a train to the front door.
Yes.
The Coventry location was not great, but it had a huge car park. So actually, once you got to it, you were fine. Digital Accountancy Show, absolutely brilliant show, but the location just it's not right for mass numbers of people. Whereas Accountex is a fantastic location. So, I think there's too much focus on, Accountex gets these numbers, it must be because of the dates. Actually, it's a series of things. And I don't think moving the dates is the right answer. So, I think we're in for a very interesting year next year, where you and I spend a lot of time in 3 months out of the office.
Yeah, which, I mean, it's not just the time out of the office, is it? It's then having to book all the hotels and transport and all that sort of stuff. It just becomes a bit of a Bit of a nightmare. Question to you then. So I think ZeroCon has been announced for the 12th and 13th. I think it's because they've kind of gone this whole idea where they move around, right? They do one in, one in Australia, one in New Zealand, and they kind of move it around. I think it's back in the UK for the 12th and 13th of June, from what I can tell. So if ZeroCon is the 12th and 13th of June, and QuickBooks Connect's yet to announce theirs, let's just assume they are still having theirs. And if this isn't anything that's happened on the County Council or anything, but for those who don't know, the Day of DAS was also a Intuit MailChimp conference as well, and that got very well attended. That was a complete sellout, something like £1,000 for some of the tickets or something. There was some VIP tickets or extra experience tickets. There was a lot. If you ever,
that wasn't targeted at the accounting industry.
No, not at all. But it was a conference, from Intuit, from QuickBooks. So if I, again, we don't know this didn't come up in the conference, but if I was Intuit QuickBooks at the moment, I'd be thinking, hold on a minute, why don't we do an Intuit event? So let's do, if they want to go 2 days, let's do QuickBooks one day, MailChimp the other, sort of idea. Let's pull the resources together, one venue. The stage is already set up, etc., etc., etc. If they were going to put a 2-day event in as well, because they went back to 1-day event, if you remember QB Connect, I think that kind of felt right. From an accounting point of view, I don't think they would have gained much from spreading that over 2 days. If they were going to do a 2-day event and call it an Intuit event, where are they going to fit that? Because they would normally want that early March. But they can't have that then, can they? They're going to have to find a different date. Well, do they take Daz's old date? Like, that's when MailChimp had it, and it was a huge success for them. Well, if you were planning now, where would you stick the Intuit Connect?
The problem is you can put it on the Daz's date, but is that too close to the ZeroCon date? Like, to be fair to Xero and QuickBooks, they do respect each other.
But they're separate though, aren't they? Like,
they are.
Very few people are going to go to both of those. Very few.
But if you've already got March, April, May filled, and we're complaining those 3 are too close together, they can't use then June.
Yeah, exactly.
July and August is a no-go because it's summer holidays. People just will be busy with commitments, childcare, etc. Then we've got September, where Accountex North is already happening. You're then looking at October. Like, we already know December and January are no-goes for the industry. February, the industry's in recovery mode. So then we're back at March, where we've got an event a month. So it's going to have to go October, November.
Doesn't feel right though, does it? It doesn't feel like that should. Yeah. I mean, maybe QuickBooks isn't having an event this year. Maybe
maybe they were until Accounting Web announced the dates that are so similar to this year's event. Yeah,
exactly right.
I would imagine conversations are being had at QuickBooks now about what they do. But yeah, I think next year is going to be a litmus test for these conference providers, and I think they're going to realize they've made some terrible mistakes here.
Yeah. That is 2024 conference season looking kind of
time-consuming.
Yeah, basically. We've got two. Let's just leave the third topic for now, and we'll just see if we can put it in and maybe bring it back into another topic, another point. So let's talk about some of the movement in the industry then. So Bright Propose has officially launched. Bright Propose is Bright. So Bright is the group that acquired Accountancy Manager. You'll probably know them mostly as Bright Pay. And I think their biggest problem at the moment is people are still kind of understanding what Bright is. I think they've still got to try and get over that, haven't they? It's going to be a long process for them to kind of get everyone to shift that actually Accounting Manager isn't just Accounting Manager anymore, which I think is what most accountants know them from. And the Bright group is now looking quite tasty. It's got Bright. It's got Accounting Manager in. It's got the Bright Pay suite in. It's got BTC they acquired last year as well. So that group have launched their very first brand new product called Bright Propose. And the simplest way to explain what Bright Propose is go proposal, and then just basically say it's their version of Go Proposal. So, I mean, I've played around with it. I've got talks and everything else. What's your? I mean, when did you know about this? Was it Accountex or was it Accounting Web that they mentioned? I can't remember.
I had an inkling they were looking at it.
Yeah.
And I knew it was something that'd been on their roadmap for a long time. So it was something I was expecting at some point. But I think it was the first time anyone showed or spoke about it was at Accountex this year.
Oh, okay. It was Accountex this year, was it? Yeah.
So yeah. How candid do you want me to be?
Hey, we don't want to ruin it. As in, you've got to be yourself. Like, go for it.
I think they've cocked it up. Like, they have this opportunity to take their pricing and their letters of engagement that are in Bright, Accountancy Manager by Bright, whatever we're calling them these days, and supercharge them with a proposal tool like we have in Client Engager. It doesn't take that long to build a pricing calculator out. We did it in 4 weeks. Now, what they've done is they've built a separate product that doesn't quite talk to the main product properly. It still leaves you with lots of entering data manually and stuff. They've taken it from completely the wrong angle. And actually, if they went to their accountants and bookkeepers and said, right, we want to do this, how would you see this working in your firm? Every single one of them would have said, well, we'd be an accountancy manager, we'd turn on the services that we want, we'd answer our questions like we would in Go Proposal, Practice Ignition, etc. That comes up with our price. That power then pulls through into the letter of engagement. We send that, or we send a proposal, whatever you want to use terminology-wise. But they haven't. And it is glaringly obvious they've just given this to a group of developers to go, we want this. And developers have gone, okay. And they've not actually thought about how it would work best in practice. And I'll stop there because, obviously I've got a conflict of interest in the form of Client Engager.
Yeah.
But, let's relate this back to other softwares like QuickBooks. They had to take working papers and, not working papers, sorry, because they nailed that. They had to take books to tax, or pro tax as it's now called, back to the drawing board because they did not ask or think, how would this work in a workflow within a practice?
Yeah.
They just went to developers, said, we want this. The developers had no experience in the industry of accounting and bookkeeping, running a firm. They thought they knew what they were doing, and it transpires that that's not how an accounting or bookkeeping firm in the UK operates and runs workflows. And I think that's exactly what has happened here at Bright. I think they've failed to take on board the concept of talking to your community to make sure you're developing it right the first time round.
Yeah. And I think the concept of this idea is brilliant.
Mm-hmm. One
of the things that I'll always harp back onto for me is that I used Go Proposal back in the day and it didn't gel with me. It wasn't, I completely get where, if you just look at Go Proposal itself, like what it's doing, it's trying to make it so that you can have anyone in your firm become a salesman for your firm, and they can start putting proposals out there, and you get a great experience, and the end user can be wowed by this proposal and everything else. And I get all of that. It just, for me, Go Proposal itself didn't fit what we were doing. Like, we couldn't make the pricing structure work for us. It wasn't built for us, and I can't sit there and criticize Go Proposal on it because it obviously works brilliantly. It's one of the most popular pieces of software out there.
And I've always, Go Proposal is fantastic, but actually what Go Proposal has been incredible at is that they've had a tool, and around that tool, they've changed the industry's ethos to pricing and value.
Agreed. Yeah.
And that, no one else has done that.
Yeah.
The tool itself, and Practice Ignition are doing it. There's plenty of other tools out there in other industries for pricing and stuff. That's not the unique part. The unique part was the training and educating of accounting and bookkeeping firms to price what they're worth. And James Ashford absolutely smashed that out of the park. He did an incredible job.
Yeah.
And it has revolutionized the accounting and bookkeeping pricing world in a way people like Mark Wickersham never managed to really achieve.
Agreed. Yeah. And when you think about it, like we were talking about conferences, I mean, the Firm Up conference, which is, I think it's a very much more of a, you were invited to, aren't you? It is an invited event. But that was, on all paper, that was absolutely amazing. Like they created a community and they've built that, and that's what they've done well. I do feel though that what Accounting Manager did well, or did at least kind of resonate for me, was they had the opportunity to go and give me a chance to look at proposal again, because they announced an integration with GoProposal, and in theory that was selling the dream to me. Like, I'd not written off GoProposal, but GoProposal wasn't on my roadmap at all. Right, I was thinking, tried it, didn't work. Accounting Manager offered this all singing, all dancing integration, and I was like, right, yeah, I need to give GoProposal another chance. Now, in fairness, again, GoProposal wasn't quite right for me, and the integration wasn't what it was saying. Like, there wasn't that seamless, you send a proposal out and it all just comes into Accounting Manager that I was expecting. So that didn't work. So the idea, though, that Accounting Manager or Bright, however we're going to call it now, says, right, actually, let's build our own proposal tool that will have all the singing, all dancing, all of the connections, all of the integration, all of that ecosystem that we love. We'll build it from scratch. We'll do it like that. And then suddenly I'm obviously very excited, because I don't have to try and fit GoProposal around my practice and the way we are. I could then take what Bright is offering, and I know it's going to have, or my assumption is, going to have this amazing seamless experience. The problem that they had from day one, though, is that they had this going element where they wanted to make sure that Bright Proposal could stand on its own feet and it could be its own solution. You don't have to have Accounting Manager, which maybe that's an end goal for it. Maybe that could be something that gets developed over time. Maybe one day Client Engager's pricing tool becomes its own standalone product down the line, if enough people want it, for example, and it becomes something that Client Engager offers as a separate pricing tool point, or whatever. But to build it from day one and almost alienate the Accountancy Manager community in the point that it's not doing what our expectations are, surely that should have been priority one, right? Like you said, like build it
the way they have, but hold off releasing it until you've got that seamless integration into an Accountancy Manager. They've released it too early.
But then they have to release it at some point, right? Like,
well, yeah.
Otherwise, it doesn't get it, because then they don't get the feedback, yeah, and then it'll just.
When I looked at this, right, I look at the market space for softwares. I've got GoProposal, and I've got Practice Ignition, or Ignition as they're called now.
Yeah,
dominating the market for standalone pricing tools. Yeah, absolutely 100%. Dominating.
Yeah,
you have got Mark Wickersham's answer to it in the background slightly. There's a few other small players. Bright have got to deliver a bloody good product to stand by and to take part of that market from the likes of GoProposal and Practice Ignition. Whereas if they'd done it like we've done it in Client Engager, of actually our purpose was to enhance the practice management software, so for an all-in-one solution, because GoProposal and Practice Ignition can't compete with all the other functionality we've got.
Mm.
Whereas Accountancy Manager can compete with us on all that other functionality. And they were technically launching Bright Propose technically as a direct challenge to us because it's then a practice management tool for proposal tool, as powerful in theory as us, and probably, the proposals are going to look, sexier and stuff like that. But the way they've done it means actually we're not worried.
Yeah. And I don't know if the sexier part of the proposal is the bit that is the important bit.
It's not, but if you've got a pricing calculator built into AM directly, and you've got one into Engager, and they can handle the complexities that equal complexity, then it filters down to presentation.
It does, but I argue like I've got to be careful what I say here because again NDAs and stuff. But what I was hopeful for of this whole idea of being built from scratch, because this is a unique proposition at this point, right? We're seeing a development team build something from scratch, which lately hasn't happened very often. Like, when was the last time something brand new got announced and it wasn't an acquisition or it wasn't just a merger or anything else that comes through it? Client Engager. But you're your own unicorn, right? You're in your own little area, right? But most of the time, a big player announcing something brand new, we can count on one hand how many times that's happened the past couple of years, right? Yeah. Normally it's an acquisition or a merger or a partnership or whatever the, VC, whatever the
type thing.
Exactly. Yeah. This one was, let's build it from scratch. Let's bring, and then to me, if you're going to build it from scratch, let's bring a USP there. Let's bring something that no one else is doing. Let's try and change it in one way or another. And I felt like this is where, for me, the excitement would have been, right, well, accounting managers nailed onboarding. This is going to help the proposal. Well, let's make that the same thing. Let's have it that if your client signs up, they then get walked through the onboarding process. They have to sign up to your direct debit solution. They have to go through the AML checks, and a client can log in at any point and see what status they're at. Where are they in that journey? Let's show that journey to them. Let's build on the fundamental, on the pain points, that accountants currently have, which is still onboarding a client. Like, Client Engager's done a fantastic job, but you're not there yet, right? And you openly admit it. Everyone in the industry are doing great jobs, but no one's coherently said, right, here is the way to onboard your client that is going to be super straightforward. And I know the reason it's not been done is because it's really difficult, right? And it's really challenging, and it's got all these complications, all these hoops you have to jump through. But they're the hoops we, as accountants at the moment, are forcing our clients to jump through anyway. Let's find a way to make that as better as possible. Matthew's put some great points in the chat. Couldn't agree more with Johann. You have to listen to the community as they know that what their needs are better than anyone. I can't understand how Bright can charge an additional fee, and we'll talk about fee in a moment, for quoting when they already have Accounting Manager. Bright could have offered a free version of Accounting Manager users and then maybe charge for standalone users, or offer a premium version later down the line with fancy brochure templates or automatic payment integration, etc., etc. And that is a fantastic point, isn't it? And I think that's where you guys at Client Engager did get some real good kudos, because there was never a mention of extra fees or anything for the pricing tool. Again, it's a different proposition, right? Yours is a pricing tool. This is a proposal solution. So you kind of got to see it as that. And maybe one day down the line, you will have a premium proposal solution in the works, right? Maybe that's where you take.
Or maybe we've got a proposal plan in the works and it's going to be free of charge because it's just adding value to what we've got.
Maybe, yeah. Or maybe you can justify charging a little bit extra. There is like, there's no shame in charging from a premium product. Yeah. Like, no. People are happy to do that. If it adds value and they can see the value, definitely charge for it. Like development time, costs, time to implement it, time to support it, and everything else. There is a cost there. Then there's got to be and as accountants, we're happy to pay, but the pricing has to be competitive, right? And it has to make sense. I mean, we said this on a previous Ask the Accountant, right? Why not go like completely out there and just do something completely different and only charge when that proposal's won? Something like that, something different, something something a bit.
If you've got the confidence that that proposal tool that you've given to your accounting clients, users, is going to nail that many sales from them, then of course you only charge for won deals.
Yeah, and maybe even a percentage of it. And you could go as far as it collects that first deposit payment or whatever, that you've put into your and they just take a cut of that first initial and pay you the rest or whatever. You could be really clever about it, right? And you could go in and try and be disruptive and make go proposal go, oh, that's an interesting way of doing it, but instead they've just tried to replicate Go Proposal's pricing structure. And
what is the pricing? I don't think I've heard rumors, but I've not looked at it properly.
Yeah, and again, I don't think we've had the actual full pricing yet, but it is still a X amount of proposals for Y and everything else. I feel like that.
Does that roll over?
I don't know, but either way, it just makes it so that it becomes we've got to justify that as in our heads, right? As a buying decision, we've got to figure out, well, do we have enough proposals per month? What bracket do we fall into? What happens if I have a quiet month? What happens if I have a really busy month? Like, those are the sort of questions we're going to be now having to think about. And it's the same questions we probably would have had to think about with Go Proposal, and probably not chosen Go Proposal because it was too restrictive.
Yeah.
And now we're just competing on the same. Have you got the prices there?
Yeah, I've just looked at the pricing. Interestingly, there is no mention of rolling over of unused proposals. So I'm going to assume that there isn't. If there was,
Yep.
they'd tell you.
Yeah,
because that's a huge selling point. So you've got a few options. Pay as you go. I like that idea as a rule. I like that. But I don't think £15 per proposal is a value offering. So you get to go pay as you go, £15 per proposal. Well, that's quite expensive if a client wants 2 or 3 different proposals.
Yeah. And again, if it was one proposal, different kettle of fish.
Like, I've just had a client who I think I've sent 4 or 5 different proposals to, because he's looking at how he does it. Do I take someone in-house for this bit? Do I do that bit myself? And that's fine. You get those clients. The majority do just sign up on the first deal, though. So it's £15 per month, or you've got bronze, which is £50 a month. You get 5 proposals, so £10 a proposal. Silver, interesting. They're saying that's the most popular one, yet this hasn't actually launched. Which is £100 a month, and you get 20 proposals. So what's that? £5 each. It's getting better, but what happens if I don't use 20 proposals in a month? Then there's no rollover. I'm losing money.
Yeah.
Gold is £150 a month for 35 proposals a month. So,
I mean, there's firms out there doing more than 35. So what happens when do they go back to pay as you go after that? And
at £15 a go.
Yeah, which makes it very. Yeah, it's going to be tricky. And like when I look at my workflow, yes, you want to keep every client completely the same and you want to have the same workflow of each one. But sometimes you look at it and you go, actually, I don't need a full proposal for that. So you're starting to think, well, do I just send the old way of doing it, how I've always done it? And then you're going to have this disjointedness of, well, that client got to have this fancy proposal solution, this one didn't. And yeah, it's just going to cause.
And the moment someone that doesn't get the fancy proposal software system but signs up makes you question, well, hang on a minute, why am I paying this for these flashy proposals when someone keeps signing up on these non-flashy ones?
Yeah. It's going to be interesting. And the big sticking point at the moment is it doesn't properly integrate with Accounting Manager. I know that's coming, and I know that's going to be down the line.
Be there from day one.
But yeah, like the whole point of this is to have this wonderful proposal that, it creates you a PDF of it all. And I don't know if PDFs is the right way for the option to download as a PDF is the right way, but surely this needs to be an interactive, thing. But
well, hang on. So you send how do you send a proposal from Bright Propose?
You generate in Bright Propose, but it basically generates a PDF for you. It's a Canva.
So there's no emailing onto the client. Click here to sign.
the email gets sent over, but then it's a PDF there that they can look
So there's
at.
no e-signing of it.
There is, but that's separate to accounting manager, because then once they've signed it, then you've got to send your accounting manager proposal through. That will be changed at some point, but it's not there now. So
you're asking me to, as a client, or potential client, you want me to sign the same thing twice, and on the second time, I also create a portal.
Yeah, 2 different engagement letters at this point as well, if you're not careful.
I mean, backwards, is to say the least.
And they are selling, like, the dream is there, the ecosystem's there, right? Like, there is an ecosystem.
That's accountancy manager to the T. They're always selling a dream. Like, they sold me 5-6 years ago on accountancy manager and the link to QuickBooks, which took them 3 years to build out. Like, they're always selling a dream. They're never selling the
in fairness to them on that one, that is more QuickBooks API, which
yes.
more than anything than that. But you're right, yeah, it is selling the dream, isn't it?
Yeah, that's my biggest bugbear with softwares, is when they sell a dream and not what's actually in product.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Right, okay, I think we are just vastly running out of time. We're already over. Just a very quick one. Maybe we'll talk about it more in the next one, but TimWorks has shut down, which is terrible to see. I think the most confusing thing was the fact they were at Digital Accounting Show, wasn't it? And they were there, so yeah.
Within 3 or 4 days of being at the Digital Accountancy Show, they then closed doors. Interesting.
It's a shame. Another one bites dust, unfortunately. But that's the way it is with that one, and maybe we'll see if we get some more information, maybe talk about it on a future event. Paul says, I argue CE works as a proposal tool now with the automatic emails. Been working on my onboarding service the past week with new clients. I'm signing up. Great to hear. Glad that's working for you, Paul. And Andy says, something coming soon. Maybe there's a one more thing moment from Client Engager on its way.
I mean, there's a one more thing moment every week from Client Engager. It's not one more thing anymore. It's a continuous stream.
In fact, if there's one more thing, people are upset. There's only one. And that is it. That is today's show done and dusted. Thank you for everyone who was talking or commenting as we go along. Apologies for the technical issue of not posting all destinations. That's someone will be shot for that one, and that is me, because it was completely down to me for not connecting it. But no, it's great to see everyone chatting away in the comment section. Remember, if you are listening to this show at a later date, so if you're on one of the podcast services of your choice, don't forget you have the opportunity to put a little question in our feedback form, and we'll make sure we look at that on a future date. So, Aaron, have you got anything exciting coming up this week? Is there anything we should be looking out for in the world of yourself?
No. Well, I'm doing a Facebook Live to the Client Engager community on Friday night, where we're looking at how I've been using ChatGPT alongside Client Engager, so I can inspire and motivate our users to maybe look at different use cases they can use ChatGPT for. So that'll be quite fun.
Nice.
And I am hoping to be beta testing an upgrade to our Zama integration as well.
Ooh, very nice. That'll be exciting to see. For myself, it is just a week of meetings and that so that'll be fun to go through. It'd be nice actually just to not have to go travel anywhere this week. So I'm looking forward to that one. Looking forward to that indeed. And that is it. That is go. Yep.
No, go on.
I was just trying to say that's it. That is the end of Ask the Accountant for today. Don't forget, we go live 8:30 every single Monday morning. So it'll be great to see you, hopefully on every platform and not when we miss a particular platform, but that's down to me. And also, don't forget that we are on your podcast service of your choice. If you want to listen to us while walking the dog and such like, on every podcast service, and that goes live on Wednesdays. My name's been Aaron Patrick, and it's been a pleasure to do this webinar podcast for you today. And it's a goodbye from me.
Doing too many webinars.
I know, right? I know.
Yeah, it's a goodbye from me. Thank you very much.
Goodbye, everyone. Thanks again for all your support, and we will see you in a week's time. Bye for now.
See you next week.